Becoming Elizabeth premieres on Sunday, June 12th on Starz. We're learning all about the untold teenage years of Elizabeth I. We have two of the stars here joining us. Alicia, let's go ahead and start with you. What's it like for you to be able to portray a part of history and someone so iconic, but a part of their life which is rarely known?
Well, I think I was so intimidated at first to portray such an icon, and then also have a look at who else, has done that before, and just that, I don't know, like those amazing actresses, you just do not want to be compared to them. So I think I just felt very lucky that I'm showing her early years, because you do not have that much of a comparison, and we look at a young girl rather than the queen we know from the books. So it is a very different approach.
And Tom, tell us a little bit about portraying Thomas Seymour. Obviously, the decisions he makes are not the decisions that most people will make. And I know you've had a little bit of an internal struggle, with that. But what's it like to think someone, maybe villainous? Is that probably the right word for that?
Well, I mean, I think what's really great about the scripts is that normally I think you would make Thomas Seymour on page just villainous. But as with every character in Becoming Elizabeth, everyone is a bit of a villain and everyone is a bit of a hero. And the show very much exists, not in the black and white, but in the kind of grey murkiness of what it is to be a human being. And Thomas Seymour definitely sits in that grey murkiness, probably leaning a bit more towards the villain side. But I think that what Anya's writing does is she asks a lot of questions for the audience to answer themselves about how they feel about the characters. And that's certainly true for Thomas, I think.
I don't know if either of you had seen the musical Six, but it's all about the wives of Henry VIII. Oh no, it's all about the wives of Henry VIII, all told from the wives' perspective. So you hear the stories of Jane Seymour, you hear Anne Boleyn, you hear a little bit about Elizabeth I. She's not portrayed in it, but you hear a lot about it. And the show was a big hit in the UK, New York, and there's a US tour right now. But I think hearing it from a female perspective and getting that interest in that time period, I think is just such a massive thing that I think that's going to get audiences excited for the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also so important, like, to see that such a great female leader and how she grew up and what informed her decisions later on. I think to see that and to allow her to allow the audience to see the human side, to allow her to have like a soft, vulnerable voice, and to see the pain she's gone through, and how she became that person, I think is so informing and so important to understand and remember as an audience, that you always have to, question every decision people make and have a look at the person behind it.
Let's talk a little bit about the costumes and the settings. You guys were filming in castles, and I feel that probably at any point in filming you could look and you're like, am I living, hundreds of years ago, or am I making a show right now? Did you ever feel like that while filming this?
Oh, absolutely. There was one particular location that we filmed in called Berkeley Castle, where historically lots of incredible things had happened, including a death of a king and also the first ever production of Midsummer Night's Dream. But on the walls of the corridor as you walk in is this amazing red fabric, that kind of like a tapestry almost. And I was asking somebody about it, saying it's beautiful, and it turns out that it was from Henry VIII's war tent, and he had sent it to the owners of Berkeley Castle as a gift because he wasn't able to attend an event. And it's up on the walls and it's still there. And it's quite extraordinary playing a scene in that location with that bit of history literally right beside you. It's kind of quite thrilling. And it really kind of cements it and brings it all home, It's quite easy to maybe sometimes underestimate what you're making, but what you're making is actually very powerful, and it's history, and you have to really respect that.
And what about for you, Alicia? What was it like filming in the different locations and wearing the different costumes?
Yeah, it was, I mean, you didn't really need that much imagination, because everything was so, like the costumes, everything was so historically accurate. It's like you were just like living the life, and the way it was shot, it was all lit by candles and natural light. So the cinematographer could pan with you and could shoot in a 360-degree way. And that way we were just like 10 hours on, you know, it was just like like leaning back and just, I don't know, chilling out for a minute. It just didn't exist. We were living in that world, and everything was so real that you could capture everything. And I've never experienced that before. It was incredible.
I do want to ask both of you, and Alicia, I'll go ahead and start with you about Anya, the showrunner. I mean, because when you look at the show, you think it's somebody who has studied this, you know, who might be in their like 60s or 70s, who has studied this their whole life, but she's in her 20s, and seeing it through her lens and having her as a leader on this show. I mean, tell us a little bit about that experience and what it means to you.
I mean, I'm just so I'm in awe. I mean, I'm impressed, and I'm so proud. I think she's a genius. She's absolutely brilliant. And the fact that I think when the producer approached her, she was like, I do not watch period drama, so why should I write one? And then the producer said, well, then write one that you would want to watch. And I think you can feel every bit of that, because it is so modern, and it's so like all the topics. All the topic. I don't know. It just feels like something that could, without the locations and without the costume, would be like a contemporary piece. Yeah, I absolutely loved working with her as well.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. When I first met her, I didn't know really what to expect. I think she was 28, 29 when she was show running the show. And she's from this area of London, South London, called Brixton, which is it's a very cool area, but it's a bit rough and tumble. You know, that's the kind of that's the polite way of saying it. And she's a bit rough and tumble. And I think that her energy it just lives in this show. It's kind of punky, and it's very fresh. And I think we're living in a world now where you touched on it earlier, where we're having stories told through a female gaze, and this show feels very, very, very female, and very specifically to Anya's life experience, and it's unique. And I'm, from the moment I first read the scripts, I'm just obsessed with her and her brain.
Yeah, we can't see, you know, what other work she creates in the future. She does amazing. I mean, especially between family, love, and duty, and the crossroads that come with that within the show. It's just something to go ahead and check out. Becoming Elizabeth premieres Sunday, June 12th on Starz. Check it out on the app at midnight the next day. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. So nice to talk to you.
You too.